Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Tanya Glantz, and I'm proud to be representing the Parents Council today. I'm also very proud for my many connections to the University of Rhode Island. I'm an alum. I am excited for the time I've been spending with the Parent Council. I'm a member of URI's Hillel board, and most proud of being a parent of a URI student. Sophomore Ella Glantz is studying computer science, and our son Jacob, a recent graduate of our mechanical engineering program here at URI, which makes today's program that much more exciting for me. I just wanted to start with a little bit of housekeeping, just so that folks will be aware we are recording today's presentation, and I'm excited to report that a link will be made available following the program, and you can find it at the URI Alumni YouTube channel. We also ask that everyone mute themselves while our presenters are speaking so that we can avoid any feedback. And we will have the opportunity for questions. So you will see a Q&A pop up on your menu bar. If you have questions during the program, please feel free to type them in there, and we will have a chance to spend some time responding to them. It's my pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce our very impressive guests. I'm going to start with Dean Bontempi, who is the Dean of our Graduate School of Oceanography. She holds a PhD in Oceanography from URI, a Master of Science in Oceanography from Texas A&M University, and a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Boston College. Previous to her position here at URI, she served as Acting Deputy Director of NASA's Earth Science Division, their Science Mission Directorate of NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. Prior to her appointment as Acting Deputy Director, Dean Bontempi spent more than 16 years as a physical scientist and program manager for ocean biology and biochemistry at NASA headquarters. She also served as the lead for NASA's Carbon Cycle Ecosystems focus area, and for the agency's carbon cycle science research. For nearly 18 years, she was a program scientist for a large number of Earth-observing satellite missions at NASA. Prior to joining NASA, Dean Bontempi was an assistant professor of oceanography at the University of Southern Mississippi's Department of Marine Sciences. And her role here at URI, she has the executive responsibility for the graduate school and its Narragansett Bay Campus, where she provides leadership and oversight for its academic, research, and outreach activities. How fortunate are we to have her among our faculty and our leaders? Next, I'd like to take a couple of, maybe a minute or two to introduce you to Dean Marchese, who is the Dean of our Engineering School, and he is a Vincent and Estelle Murphy Professor of Engineering here at the university. He holds a PhD in Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering from Princeton and a bachelor and master's degrees in science from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. He was previously the Associate Dean for Academic and Student Affairs and Professor of Mechanical Engineering at Colorado State University. His academic career has focused on providing access to student success in higher education and developing innovative energy solutions in response to societal challenges, which include climate, environment, and human health. His research focuses on increasing efficiency in internal combustion engines, developing transportation fuels from algae, designing clean burning biomass cook stoves for developing economies, and mitigating methane emissions from the United States national gas infrastructure. His recent work on methane emissions has been published in Science Nature Communications and Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, and this research has informed regulatory policy and industrial practices. In 2019, through 2021, he served as the chair to the U.S. sections of the Combustion Institute, and he has previously held positions at Rowan University, United Technology Research Center, and NASA Glenn Research Center. I am excited. My son's a graduate of this program, and the program taught him well, and so I'm very excited to share the space with both of you, and I ask everyone to join me in welcoming our deans.
Thank you. I assume I'm going to go first. So my name is Paula Bontempi. I'm the Dean at the Graduate School of Oceanography on the Narragansett Bay Campus. First of all, thank you everybody for joining today. I'm really pleased to be here. It's an honor to share the stage with a dean like Anthony Marchese and all of the colleagues that put this program together. So welcome. Hopefully after this, you'll be convinced GSO and the College of Engineering are the only places you should send your children. So I would like to just share a few slides, if that's acceptable. I'm going to share my screen. Just hopefully you will be able to see this okay. Just slideshow mode. Okay, so you may not have ever been to the Narragansett Bay Campus, or perhaps you didn't even know it ever existed, but we're here about 7 or 8 miles from the main campus on the water, the glorious Narragansett Bay. It is not just GSO that occupies the Narragansett Bay Campus, however. The College of Engineering, specifically Ocean Engineering, is located here, as well as about 24 other institutions, including part of the College of Environment and Life Sciences as well, that focuses on aquaculture. It's a really beautiful campus. We back to the Narragansett Bay, which is a natural test laboratory here. This area was, since 1692, was settled and used by settlers of the area as an area of transport for the local ferries to Jamestown and Newport and other regional islands that are so populous here in Rhode Island and in New England. And then in 1936, it converted into the Narragansett Marine Laboratory, and then later into the Graduate School of Oceanography in 1961. Over that time, we have been a Revolutionary War, a Civil War, a World War I, World War II military installation, as well as occupied these lands for a myriad of other types of use. But now today, in our evolution as GSO, 61 years later, we do a lot of research to connect ocean exploration, discovery, and research with policy economics and management. We focus a lot on what's happening in our oceans and in our coastal waters. So I'd like to just talk to you about that for a moment. The campus is undergoing a complete revitalization. Thank you to all of those Rhode Islanders out there that voted yes on one in the most recent election to get us a $100 million investment in phase 2. Phase 1, which is shown here in the yellow circles, you'll see it, was funded in 2018, which was a $45 million investment by the state, not just in the Graduate School of Oceanography, but also in the College of Engineering and some of the infrastructure that was probably 60 or 70 years out of date on campus. So thank you for that investment, not just in our students, but in the thousands of students that pass through here and in all of the faculty and research that goes on campus. The highlights there are the new pier, which you see in the lower part of the screen. That will be completed next month. We will also build an ocean robotics laboratory, which I'm going to talk about at the very end of this talk a little bit. And then a marine operations facility to support a new research vessel that I'll talk about in just a moment, which should be coming online next year. Phase 2 is shown in the pink. That is what the $100 million will largely go to. This includes demolishing some of our completely outdated infrastructure in which we conduct research and education, and building some new buildings like the Ocean Frontiers building, the Marine Geological Samples Lab, which is one of 4 facilities in the United States that houses the world's deep sea sediments, cores, and rocks, and then an ocean engineering complex, which I'm sure Anthony will talk a little bit more about. So we're very excited about this investment, and we're very, very happy and thankful that you voted yes on one. So thank you to everybody for their support. Taken together, this is quite a bit of revitalization for our 155-acre campus. As I mentioned, we have over 24 partners, so we're very happy to engage our federal, state, non-governmental organizations and industry partners in expanding our campus to really usher in new frontiers in ocean research and education. Okay, so at a glance, who are we and what do we do? We have a global research footprint that extends from Earth's poles to Narragansett Bay and everything in between. We have sent researchers by ship, by air, pretty much everywhere there is to send them, collected samples, brought them home. We study everything from Earth's climate and how it is changing and responding to man-made and other pressures, to coastal weather systems to what's happening in carbon cycling in the ocean and Earth's ecosystems, such as what's happening with fisheries. If you see a harmful algal bloom, or some people call them red tides, chances are there's somebody at GSO studying them. Our research budget, the federal dollars that we bring in on an annual basis, exceed $50 million a year. And to give you a litmus test, that's slightly greater than half of all the research that URI conducts. So we have 29 tenure track faculty that are very, very busy. Overall, we have 32 faculty. That includes our research and teaching faculty. We have just over 100 graduate students and 188 total personnel as part of GSO, plus about just over 500 on the Narragansett Bay Campus, based on all the other organizations that are here. We currently grant a PhD and a Master of Science. Remember, we're a graduate school. We do teach undergraduates, several thousand a year to be exact, in Grand Challenge and other undergraduate related classes of interest, from Oceanography 101 all the way up to basically what's happening with the climate and your role in it. We also have a Master of Oceanography online. This is a non-thesis seeking degree targeted for more professional masters. We have a lot of industry partners that send their employees there. And the Blue MBA, which is my personal favorite degree, which is a partnership with the College of Business to not only get an MBA, but to highlight areas in environmental science and ocean science that may be relevant to somebody's future business and economic career. So overall, we have about 1,000 alumni working in academia, in the government, in the private sector, and all around the globe. Now, you may have heard me mention our new ship that's coming online. We have a current 50-year-old research vessel, Endeavor. She is currently down in the Bahamas. I wish I were too, doing research with a number of researchers from all over the world. She's able to cross the Atlantic, and she's done that many times, but it is time to bid her farewell and thank you for all of her amazing years of service. And we will usher in the Narragansett Dawn sometime next year. It's one of 3 regional class research vessels that the National Science Foundation is building. We competed for this and won it. We will be operating her on behalf of the federal government, and we should take delivery of her sometime in late 2024. So watch for a big christening sometime in that area. And then finally, the last piece is we are a nimble, agile, and interdisciplinary institution. We do everything working in conjunction with the College of Engineering and some joint faculty to create new observational platforms for studying our ocean. Some of these are autonomous, as the one you see here. We have research in ocean exploration in our cooperative institute through federal agencies like NOAA that we do as part of our operational research. We feed a lot of that into management and new careers. And we hope to one day welcome you and your students on our campus anytime you're interested or would like a tour. So I'm happy to answer questions following Anthony Marchese's presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paula. So let me share my screen. Let's see here. How's that? Okay, can you see my presentation? Assume, yeah?
Yes.
All right, thanks, Paula. Well, thanks, Paula, and thanks, Tanya, and thanks, everybody. It really is an honor and privilege for me to be here as well. I've been the Dean of Engineering now for around 13 months, and it's just been such a welcoming environment, and it's been a real privilege to work with Paula here since I've been here. So yeah, I'll just give a sort of general flavor of the College of Engineering, some of the things that we've been up to, and I look forward to answering questions after that. So it couldn't be a more exciting time than right now to be at the University of Rhode Island with a new president, new provost, new strategic plan, and really the role of an engineering program at a flagship state public land and sea grant university. There's no other place that I'd rather be. And the engineering program, I think, has a unique role at a public land grant university. And I see the mission of the College of Engineering in 4 main areas. The first is to provide access to a quality, affordable education to a diverse population. Everybody with a will and desire to succeed, we want them here at Rhode Island. Also, as a land grant, sea grant university, we want to perform world-class research to solve regional, national, and global challenges. We also have an important role in workforce development. So as a state university, it's our job to pay back the taxpayers to make sure that we develop their workforce. And then lastly, as importantly, is to actually create jobs. So we don't just do research for the fun of it. We want to do research to make sure that it creates jobs and creates value for the state of Rhode Island. So really, that's our role and our mission here in terms of the College of Engineering. And I'll just touch upon some of the areas how we're kind of fulfilling that mission. So the first part in terms of enrollment and access, I think we've been doing a great job really since before I got here at URI. So if you think about it, since 2010, our undergraduate enrollment has increased by 50%. Our PhD student enrollment has increased by 82%. And as importantly, the diversity of our student population has really grown to be more reflective of our region and society. So over the last 15 years, we've seen a 48% increase in Black and African-American students, a 70% increase in Asian students, a 240% increase in Hispanic and Latino students, and 112% increase in women in our program. And really, that's part of our mission, right? It's amazing to think that in this day and age, that 33% of our students here at URI are still the first in their family to go to college, right? So that's what it means in terms of our access mission. And, as the diversity of our population changes, the diversity of our first generation students change. And so by default, we get a more diverse population, which is reflective of society. One of the important factors is, though, even though we have an access mission to provide access to everybody with the will and desire to succeed, that doesn't mean that we cannot and should not compete for the best and the brightest students in our state. And this fact here at the bottom is something I'm really proud of. So last year in our admissions cycle, so we talk about yield in admissions at universities, and yield is basically the percentage of students that enroll divided by the percentage of students that are admitted. And typically in undergraduate programs at state universities, you're happy to get 25% yield. And that yield actually keeps decreasing nationally because of the common application and whatnot. And so people apply to more colleges. Well, we get 50% yield among the highest achieving Rhode Island applicants. Okay, so these are the students who graduate with a higher, greater than a 3.8 GPA. So that's just phenomenal. What does that say? What that says is that we are perceived as an extremely high value to our best and brightest students here in the state of Rhode Island. So to me, that's a huge return on taxpayer dollars. So I'm really proud of that fact. And in terms of the best and brightest, here's just one example, right? This is very indicative of our students. Here's a student, Aiden Kindop. He's a dual chemical engineering and French major. He's been working in undergraduate research as an undergraduate researcher in a nanotechnology laboratory, and he's a Division I athlete who runs track. So those are the type of students that we attract here to Rhode Island, and we're University of Rhode Island. We're extremely proud of that. Okay, well, in terms of research, right? So important role of research in terms of an engineering program at a land-grant university. Well, our research footprint also continues to grow. So in the past 5 years, our research expenditures within engineering have increased by 200%. So from 6 million to 18 million just in the last 5 years. We have several very large centers. In fact, one of the largest centers at the University of Rhode Island is our National Institute for Undersea Vehicle Technology. So this is a center that we share with the University of Connecticut. And it's a partnership with the Naval Undersea Warfare Center and General Dynamics Electric Boat. And it's a very unique center, and we have 80 faculty and hundreds of students who participate in research directly aimed at our national defense. And one of the ways that we define our successful faculty are by the grants that they receive. And in engineering and science, the most prestigious award that you can get is called the National Science Foundation Career Award. So this is for young faculty. In addition, equally prestigious is the Office of Naval Research Young Investigator Award. So 14 out of the last 30 faculty hired in engineering have gotten either an NSF career or an ONR Young Investigator Award. So that's phenomenal when you think about that at a state university like the University of Rhode Island. So what that says is we attract world-class faculty and they succeed once they get here. Here's just one example. This is Brandon Phillips. He's an assistant professor who's been here for about 5 or 6 years. And he basically is not only a world-class researcher, but he also develops systems that are really one of a kind. So his students design and fabricate deep sea imaging systems, and they use 3D printers and other commercial off-the-shelf technology. And he's in the process of commercializing this. So this is his systems have the ability to visualize things at thousands of meters below sea level. As I mentioned earlier, workforce development. So we have a unique role here that we need to educate the workforce of Rhode Island. And that's the workforce of the future, not the workforce of yesterday. And I think we're doing a fantastic job there as well. So, these are typical numbers. 92% of our graduates from the College of Engineering have their plans secured within 6 months of graduation. So plans secured mean either getting a job or going to graduate school. Our top employers are some of the top employers of the region. So General Dynamics Electric Boat, Naval Undersea Warfare Center, Amgen, Raytheon, Toray Plastics, Pfizer, Moderna, Rhode Island Energy, et cetera. So our students are sought after greatly. Last Wednesday, we had Raytheon here. They specifically wanted to hire our students. And so they brought an entire panel of 6 professionals from Raytheon. And we had 150 students and President Barlange, and they're specifically coming to URI to hire our students. And lastly, in terms of workforce development, in the long run, our students who do their undergraduate degrees here at University of Rhode Island, they're extremely well sought after from the top graduate schools. So just this past year alone, we've had students go to MIT and Stanford and others. Here's one of our successful alum, Maeve Story. She graduated with a joint ocean engineering and German major through our IEP program. She worked on offshore wind as part of her bachelor's and master's degree, and she was scooped up right away by the Cathay Group, who has recently opened up a facility here in Rhode Island to work on offshore wind. So she's now a project engineer working on offshore wind. And last but not least, economic development and job creation, right? So we want our faculty and students to not only to do important research, but to do research that can be develop intellectual property that ultimately creates jobs. And these are just 3 that I picked out, sort of part of the blue economy theme. But so here's a company called Far Sounder that does sonar for large boats and ships. And they were founded by Matthew Zimmerman, who's a URI College of Engineering alumnus, and Heath Henley, not a founder, who's another alumnus. So here's a more early stage effort. I'd mentioned Brennan Phillips. So he's developing a lot of intellectual property on his undersea imaging and instrumentation systems. And he's working with a URI startup called Juice Robotics to commercialize that technology. Here's an example of a company that is, specifically co-located in Rhode Island to be near University of Rhode Island. So they're called Jaya Robotics, and they do these low-cost, autonomous, both surface and subsurface vehicles. And I don't think the founder's a URI alum, but Michael Rock is an employee there, is a URI Ocean Engineering alum. So it's really important that we do research that spin out companies, but then also our presence here, particularly as it pertains to the blue economy, when we talk about offshore wind, undersea vehicle technology, coastal resilience, we're actually attracting companies to move here to Rhode Island to take advantage of our expertise. So I think I'll stop there because I think it'd be a great opportunity to answer questions from the folks here. So thank you. So let's see, I'll unshare. Do I have to unshare? What do I do here? Stop share. There we go.
Yeah, stop share.
Deans Marchese and Bontempi, thanks so much for your presentation. I actually noticed one of my favorite engineers in one of the slides, Diane Baxter. So what a treat. We do have a question that is framed for both of you. And the question is, what is the best way for students to obtain internships or post-grad research opportunities?
That's great. I can go first on that. So particularly if this is an undergraduate student, one of the things I always suggest is that, students be as proactive as they can. Okay. And I tell this to my own kids who are college age, which is, sit in the front row of your class. Okay. Raise your hand, ask questions, go to office hours. Okay. So believe it or not, all of us faculty, we have office hours, 1 or 2 hours a week. And I always joke to parents that, what do I do during office hours? A lot of times I sit there and check email because students don't show up, right? So take advantage of that and get to know your faculty. If it's a class that you're taking and it's an area of interest, a lot of our faculty hire undergraduate researchers. I mean, the majority of our faculty that are research active, maybe all of them, have undergraduates working in their lab. But you have to be a little bit proactive and you have to be persistent from the standpoint that we all get, 2 or 3 of these emails a month or a week, and we might not reply to the first one, but, I always reply to the second one and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get back to you. And so be persistent, talk to your faculty. And then in terms of internships, right now, there are more internships than we can even supply enough students. So in engineering, we have Lauren Creamer is our career education specialist. Okay. She's located here on the 4th floor of Bliss. I strongly recommend you make an appointment with her. She can help you find an internship. We use a system here on campus called Handshake. And so you go through the system Handshake, there will be jobs and internships there. Hopefully that answers the question from some opportunities there.
On the GSO side, appreciate the question. So we are a graduate school, but I can tell you, starting from sort of the K through 12 area, we have many summer camps and programs that we do. We do a tremendous amount of public engagement. So from, very early on in students' career trajectories, we're trying to educate them as to why in the ocean state the ocean is important. From there, for internships and making connections for employment, I echo what Anthony said. Please tell your children or your friends, whoever you're speaking with, don't get disheartened if there's no response after the first email. We all get a lot of email. Let me remind you that the phone works remarkably well. People have often told me they emailed me 4 times, but I picked up on the first ring. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and just call someone. We are always looking for students who are interested in internships, either for the summer, for a project during the academic year. Funding from the federal government pops up all the time. And all of a sudden, where 1 month you might say, I don't think I have room for a student, all of a sudden the next month you're flush with money. And there's a phenomenal research opportunity to start working on something like Anthony just highlighted, which is, a submersible that you can actually sit in. And, you just called at the right time, or you just reached out at the right time. So we are always looking for those opportunities. What GSO does is this sort of 1,000+ network of oceanographers are placed all over the world and in any number of career institutions. We bring them together in what we call sort of career speed dating every now and then, and we invite all of our current students in, and everybody, sits around and has some pizza and chats about careers, and that leads to a lot of partnerships and internships and post-education employment. We do that a lot with a lot of our industry partners in the state, just like engineering does as well. So it all starts with you, right? And reaching out. We can advertise on our website, which we will always do for internships and fellowships and employment after graduation. But you have to sort of make that initial contact, and they should not be afraid to do that. That's what we're here for, right?
Thank you. It sounds like with so much else, it's about the relationship. And so really encouraging students not to be intimidated, but to reach out and get to know their faculty, so the faculty will get to know them. As an alum of URI, I know I benefited from that kind of support and outreach from faculty in the psychology department. And certainly my kids are having the same experience. We have a second question, and the question is, what do we do to help place students with special needs, including students on the spectrum, in their vocations, continued education, and internships?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think folks should be aware that we have a students with disabilities service on campus, and so make sure. I know my own situation with my own family, and through K through 12, if you're in the public schools, a lot of that stuff is sort of done for you on the way in. But with the university, as you make that transition, you want to make sure that you reach out to those services as you're sort of making that transition. And so obviously, during one's career here, if folks need extra time on exams, or they need to take an exam in a quiet place, or they need extra time to complete homework. So all of those things are provided and must be provided by law. In terms of help on that transition in the job, I have to say that's not something I've thought a lot about, to be honest with you. And I will follow up with our career education specialist on that. I think that's something that we really should be a little bit more intentional about. I will say that Lauren Creamer, who I mentioned already, she is so hands-on and such an approachable person that what I would recommend, if the question was from a parent of a student with those types of needs, first of all, reach out to me, please. My email is just marchese@uri.edu, and then I'll follow up with Lauren, and then I would also suggest that your student, if they're comfortable, which I hope they are, advocate for themselves as well. And we always want to say that better yet would be if that student emails me, and then I'll put them in touch with Lauren, and if there's any way that we could make that transition easier, we'll certainly help.
Yeah, I think Anthony gave a great answer. I would not, differ in my response, but I will add just one thing. I think at times in our lives, whether for, mental, physical, wherever the challenges lie, the parent of a son who has some challenges in learning, I think we can't let it get in our way. I think making the educators aware, like Anthony mentioned, that, it's a difficult thing to talk about. I get it. The disclosure, the always wanting to be there to support your child, I understand completely. Maybe you're letting them go into an environment like oceanography, working on a ship. I mean, we still haven't solved, how to do that with some of the physical challenges that people have. That does not mean the field is closed off to you. I want to be really clear about that. In my 2 decades at NASA, there were many people with many challenges that were instrumental in the space program, in looking at aspects of astrophysics and planetary science, earth science. It didn't matter what it was. There's a role for your dreamer in what they want to do. And there always will be. It's just sometimes we encounter barriers, but those barriers are detours. They are not permanent barriers. And we are here to solve those challenges with you and your family. Is it going to be smooth along the way? Probably not, but this is how we change cultures, right? And so I echo what Anthony said, is we are always here to support students and families that way.
Excellent. And I know that the Parents Council has run a number of programs talking about the rich array of services at the university. So, the more we educate ourselves about them, communicate what our needs are, and then certainly help our students, right, as parents and faculty to advocate for themselves, seems to be a critical way to move this idea forward of giving access to everyone. We have two more questions that have come in. Someone is interested in knowing whether or not students should look for internships only as juniors or seniors, or is there an opportunity for freshmen and sophomore to also qualify for internship experiences?
Yeah, I'll field that one first here. No, it's never too early, right? So I think it gets a little bit easier to get the internship each summer, but I would say as early as the summer after freshman year, you certainly can look. The summer after your sophomore year, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to get an internship if you want one. Right now, we're just seeing, as we come out of the pandemic, even though people keep telling us the economy is slowing down, we're not seeing that with the jobs. I mean, I think this great resignation and the sort of baby boomers retiring, engineering firms cannot hire enough students right now. What happened last summer, believe it or not, as we couldn't fill positions even here on campus. Paula mentioned some of our own summer programs. We have summer research programs on campus. We had a hard time even recruiting our own students because our own students, had 2 or 3 internship offers. So at the last, we were dipping down to freshmen and sophomores. I mean, for programs that normally were for juniors. So short answer is it's never too early. I have a son who's a freshman in college, and he's studying political science, so I kind of can't help him as much as I would like. But I tell him the same thing. I'm like, no. You get that resume out there, and worst case, you don't get the job this summer. You have a head start for next summer.
Well said, Anthony. I would echo the same. It's never too early.
And the second question was whether or not there are opportunities for students to both study and or work internationally.
You want to take that one first since you've been taking all these first? 1,000,000,000% in oceanography. Absolutely. Everything we do, as I mentioned, our reach is from pole to pole on this planet. And if you give some of our oceanographers the opportunity, it may be on other planets too. I think that we study land, ocean, and atmosphere and ice everywhere that we're able to. Anytime there's water, we're there. Certainly with going to sea, ships go all over the world. Conferences are everywhere. We've got partnerships with sister institutions all over the planet, at URI and then within our respective colleges where we exchange students, we exchange faculty. There's plenty of time and opportunity for that. And I would go so far as to say a lot of our students also win things like Fulbright fellowships, where they find themselves traveling all over the world, maybe even being embedded for a while. I did 6 months of my graduate tenure at GSO, actually living and working for NATO in Italy. And just like that, those kind of things and opportunities can happen. And they are career building and life changing. So we encourage as much of that as we possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to do it over again, I probably would have done oceanography. I mean, the places that your faculty and students go and the things that you get to do, I mean, it's pretty remarkable. Yeah, well, in terms of engineering, I can say without hesitation that the University of Rhode Island has probably the strongest and definitely the first of its kind international engineering program. So there are now 30 programs like this across the country, and they literally have modeled themselves after our program. And so something like 30% of our students participate in the IEP. So just think about that. If we have 1,500 undergrads, right? So 300 or 400 of them are in the international engineering program. What does that mean? It's a 5-year program. You graduate with 2 degrees, a degree in engineering plus a degree in a foreign language. And there's 6 different flavors. We have, see if I get it right, German, French, Spanish, Italian, Japanese, Chinese. Okay, so you compare Bachelor's of Arts in any of those languages with the Bachelor of Science and Engineering. The most exciting thing about that program in my mind is your fourth year out of the 5 years, you spend the entire year abroad. And so the first semester, you're taking a foreign language at a university in one of those countries. And then your second semester, which is really remarkable, you're doing a paid internship overseas. So, I mean, I can't speak enough about that program. As you saw in my presentation, at least two of the students I mentioned were in that program, right? And so it's, you know, it's challenging. It's, you know, but it really, it's a world-class program. And I'm hoping my own son, my other son, who's a junior in high school, I'm kind of guiding him. I learned that, you know, as a parent, you know, you can only guide, but I'm guiding him towards the German IEP. We'll see how that goes.
Once again, the opportunities at URI never seem to diminish. Thank you for answering all of our participants' questions. That was the last of our questions. So what I'd like to do is I would like to thank the both of you for your great presentation and for reminding us of the many resources available through our engineering and oceanography programs. And I also think that your presentation may have also planted some seeds about some additional ways that we as parents and members of the broader URI community can continue to support the important work that's going on in engineering and oceanography programs. I want to thank all of our participants. I want to recognize my fellow members of the Parents Council who joined us today. I'm especially appreciative of all the folks who submitted questions. For those of you who are not familiar with the Parent Council, the slide that you're seeing right now on your screen provides some information. And if you'd like some more information on it, about maybe even about becoming involved, you can see Jenny Demeter's information is on there, but also to participate in the great programming that they offer. I hope you have enjoyed today's presentation as much as I am. And I would like to say, go Rhody.
Thank you. Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right.